your wrestling or coaching philosophy. No philosophy, no success. It's pretty simple. When I started coaching years ago, I got Dan Gable's book. It was called Coaching Wrestling Successfully, and that's one of the articles in there. And I really took it to heart, and it probably took me a couple of weeks to come down with my coaching philosophy. But it was easy for me because I was on 3 national championship teams at Oklahoma State, and was All American at Oklahoma State, and had a good background in high school, awesome coaches and stuff. So it was pretty easy. I had a wealth of previous experience to draw back on. If you don't have a philosophy or a technique, sort of game plan, you can always use ours. It's at perlawrestling.com. Our DVD series can certainly help. But from an athlete too, you want to have a wrestling philosophy. How do you win? What's your best positions? A big part of wrestling is avoiding wrestling. So if you watch, Jordan Burroughs, he doesn't wrestle in an over-under hook. He doesn't wrestle in a collar tie underhook. There's many Olympic champs that do. But what he does is he takes his wrestling notebook and the over-under page, he tears it out and throws it in the trash. He avoids that position because he's better over here than he is wrestling in there. So trying to, it's good to learn a lot of different positions and ties and how to wrestle from there. But as you get better at wrestling, your wrestling should get smaller, and you want to start specializing in certain areas. Obviously on top, if I'm a leg rider, if a cradle's there, I'll take it. If a half is there, I'll take it. If a cross wrist is there, I've got the 2 best tilts in wrestling. Easton roll and a clarion tilt. I've mastered those, but day in and day out, I'm going to get my legs in on top. And if you're a spiral ride guy or half series guy, you're gonna make your living there. You're going to avoid these other positions unless they're staring you in the face. So having a wrestling philosophy from a technique standpoint is important. But back to the coaches, it's certainly important to have a coaching philosophy. And that can come down to how you manage the workout room. We like to manage our work. We don't yell at the kids. We don't do push-ups. We don't do punishment reps, punishment push-ups. We try to get the kids moving their feet from the first 30 seconds of practice to the last. Very organized practice. Boom, 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 boom. Everything's done on a 2 or 3 minute clock. Everything's done on a clock. And, sometimes the kids who aren't drilling correctly, we stop the room. I show kids who are. Now they have a video clip in their head of what right looks like. Boom, we start over again. And we stay on top of these kids. But, some people like a loud, hectic practice. I don't. I like a calm practice where people are working. But that's just my philosophy. That's the way I do things. From a wrestling standpoint, we like to under-teach, over-drill. I don't mean half Nelson and double leg and spin drill. Our practice plans are pretty extensive. But there's a couple thousand wrestling techniques out there. So your wrestling gets smaller for your program, and then it gets smaller again from an individual, like we discussed. But that's part of your wrestling philosophy as a coach is how do you manage the kids? How do you motivate them? Your drill plans, your routines that you have implemented. What kind of coaches do you have helping these guys? Are you somebody who I think is a mistake, tries to force a style down the kid's throat? Or do you let the kids wrestle the way they wrestle and then help tweak their styles individually? Some kids are smart wrestlers. Some kids are wide open. Maybe too wide open. We need to calm them down a little bit. The smart positioning guys, we need to get them opened up a little bit. Some people are brawlers. Some are better off in mat wrestling. Some people can score from the outside. Some people are more of a tie-up guy. So everyone has their own different style of wrestling. And, do you allow that? Or do you try to cookie cutter kids, which I think is a mistake. But some of us, we do that. But that's part of your philosophy too. What's your philosophy on that? What's your philosophy on motivating the kids? Just a whole host of things. But from a wrestling standpoint and a coaching standpoint, you have to have a piece of paper that says, this is how I win, and this is how we're going to progress from point A to point B. And over the next 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 years, these are the results I expect to have. Obviously, we need to adjust the sails a little bit. Sometimes things aren't going right. We tweak here, we adjust. We don't just tear the sail down and turn the boat around, right? We just adjust our sails. You make little corrections, course corrections. You learn a few things. You learn from your mistakes. You go to coaches clinics, or you get some instructional DVDs, or maybe you listen to some interviews online from these famous coaches, or as an athlete standpoint, you study some top college or Olympic guys, and you learn. You tweak your style a little bit, but it's good to have a foundation. And from a foundation, one of the things you can do is have a philosophy of, how am I going to win in this sport as a coach? How am I going to win in this sport as an athlete? There's other videos on here about styles and stuff. You can click around. We have quite a few video clips, and you can always subscribe. I would recommend it that way. When you subscribe, every time we post a new video, you get an email alert, and to check, and you get to stay current with the new ones that are added. But getting a coaching philosophy was one of the main things that Dan Gable had recommended, and 20 something years ago I did that, and I really think it was great advice.